Okay, let's go and finish things up here. As I was saying towards the end of the previous exercise, the first thing I need to do is I need to go and adjust this artboard. Now, perhaps you have quite a bit of artboard left, or perhaps you ran out of artboard a long time ago. I have no idea. But all we need to do here, it's very straightforward, it's very simple, is we're just going to use our artboard tool over inside the toolbox. Okay, so of course we grab this guy, that brings us into this artboard mode, which we've already seen. And all I'm going to do is just give myself a little bit of extra height here. Or for yourself, perhaps you have too much height, you want to reduce it down a little bit. So I'll leave that up to you to figure out exactly what we need. And by the way, in terms of the amount of height that I'm adding in, I'm not being careful at all. I'm kind of eyeballing it. I'm kind of guessing. You know, I know that I want my footer in here, which we're going to go and create in a moment. And I know that the approximate height, I guess I could say, of the footer, but I'm not 100% sure. I might goof it up and wind up creating too much space, or who knows. But bottom line is, I'm really just eyeballing it. No one looking at our low-resolution wireframe on their iPhone is going to go, their height, it's only set to 732 pixels. They didn't round it off to 730 pixels. No one really cares about, the overall height. So we don't have to be too crazy careful here, just so long as everything looks good. All right, so there we go. There's the height. Once again, to exit out of this artboard mode, just go ahead and grab your black arrow tool out of the toolbox, and that brings us back to where we were. Okay. All right, now the footer itself, let's go and get this done here. I'm going to tap the M key on my keyboard. I will single click with my tool, and I want to go and create an object here that's 480 pixels in width, which we already have set there, and make sure your height is set to 50. Now, once again, we have an opportunity to change up the design a little bit. Maybe for whatever reason, for your low-resolution layout, you want the header to be just a little bit taller. Maybe you want it to be 75 pixels. Or maybe you want it to be really tall, 150 pixels. Who knows? Or maybe you don't want a footer at all. It's entirely up to you. You have to decide for yourself here. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and there's my footer. Now, once again, the footer's taken on the color scheme of the text that we had just created. So I just tapped my V key on my keyboard to flip back over to my selection tool. And let's see here. I'm going to tap my X key to bring my fill swatch into focus. And once again, I'm just going to use the same color schemes that we've been using all the way along. So a fill color of 20% gray. And then I'll tap X one more time to bring my stroke, my outline now into focus. And I'll set him to the 70% gray. Okay. So there we go. And let's see, I'm going to increase his stroke weight to 2. If you want, you could get into your stroke alignment, either from the options drop-down menu, this option here, or you could get into your actual stroke panel over on the right-hand side. I'll leave that up to you to monkey around with. And then it's just a matter of positioning this guy. Now, in terms of positioning this guy, we have 3 options. I could eyeball the positioning. That is certainly valid. Or I could use the Align panel, or I could use the Transform panel. It's entirely up to you. I think what I will do is I will use my Align. So I'll go with the Align drop down here just for the sake of time, for the sake of speed here. I'll drop down the Align from the options bar and then just line this guy up left and bottom for myself. Okay, and there we go. Now, maybe you didn't give yourself enough height when we changed the height of the artboard. You might want to go back to the artboard tool and then increase your height just a little bit more, or perhaps you're happy with what you have here. Anyway, I'll leave it up to you to do the fine-tuning on your layout. Okay, make sure you save your layout as well, of course. And there we go. There's our low-resolution wireframe layout. All right, looks great. Not too complicated, which is nice. Not a whole lot going on. But one thing that I did want to take a moment to discuss is that when we're embarking on a project like this, it gets a little bit more complicated because we're not just laying out one design, we're laying out 3 designs. So in a scenario where I'm building something for a client, of course, I would have a meeting with them and I'd get to know them a little bit, and I'd, of course, be doing a little bit of fact-finding in terms of what it is that they're after and what they want to have on their layout, on their design, and on their website overall. Are they going to have customer testimonials? Are they going to have a product of the month? Are they going to feature different services? This sort of thing, right? Get an idea for what they want. And then usually for myself, as I've mentioned a couple times already, it breaks down to figuring this stuff out on scrap pieces of paper or maybe inside my sketchbook, deciding how a lot of this stuff should be laid out, right? And then what I now have to do, because we're in a responsive design process, is I actually have to do that 3 times. So I have to figure out how the layout objects are going to fit together under 3 different scenarios, right? And we've done that already, high, medium, and low. So now at this stage of the game, I would also have to decide, okay, what layout elements are inappropriate for the different layouts. So for example, with our low resolution here, we opted to leave the slideshow out because we decided that that wasn't really appropriate for a small handheld device, right? Taking up so much screen space. I talked about that earlier on, right? So we opted to leave that out. And that's another set of decisions that we're going to have to make, either ourselves or, again, with our client or our coworker or, whomever, right? So at this stage of the game, what we'd want to do is we'd want to take our 3 wireframe layouts and give them to our client or give them to our coworkers if we're involved in a project at work. And you would say, now this gets a little tough because people don't really get seeing gray boxes. They want to see all the fonts and the colors and the photos, and they'll say, well, where's our logo and where's this? But you want to show them this would be like a rough blueprint for the construction that you're going to be embarking on. And you say, okay, well, this area would be for the main navigation menu, and this area would be the header, and this area is where we would feature testimonials and so on. And you want to get their approval on this before we move on to the next step in the overall project, which is the design phase of our project. So the wireframing is complete. We are now ready to move on to this design phase, which is likely going to be happening inside Photoshop.